Hello everyone. Before we delve into today's episode, I know many of you use these videos to help you sleep. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who supports us by liking and sharing our content. Please take a moment to say hello and leave a comment, letting us know where in the world you're tuning in from. Your engagement is truly appreciated and contributes to making this channel stand out. If you're new to our channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. And now, take a moment to relax, turn off the lights, and let's get started. At the tender age of 17, the allure of freedom and independence beckoned to me like a siren's call. With the realization dawning that my own set of wheels would be the first step towards that coveted autonomy, I delved into the depths of Craigslist, scouring its virtual aisles day in and day out, searching for that perfect match, a reliable card that wouldn't break the bank. My budget was modest, capped at a mere $3,000, relegating my options to the realm of beaters, those humble vehicles whose glory days had long since passed. But I wasn't seeking luxury or prestige. All I desired was a vehicle that could ferry me from point A to point B without leaving me stranded on the roadside. Days turned into weeks, and my quest persisted unabated until, one fateful afternoon, I stumbled upon a listing that seemed to hold promise. A 2002 Honda Accord, 2 doors, priced at a tantalizing $2,000, with a mileage that barely scratched the surface of 80,000. It seemed almost too good to be true. Eager to seize this potential opportunity, I engaged in a flurry of communication with the seller, whom I'll simply refer to as Dan for convenience. Our initial phone conversation was cordial enough. Dan appeared affable and accommodating, fielding my inquiries with practiced ease. He even remarked on the coincidence of sharing the same name, a gesture that, while peculiar, didn't set off any immediate alarm bells. With the groundwork laid, the stage was set for our face-to-face encounter. Armed with cautious optimism and accompanied by my ever-watchful mother, we embarked on the journey to Dan's abode, a modest residence located a few towns over. Little did we know what awaited us on the other side. Navigating our way through the labyrinthine streets of the unfamiliar neighborhood, we couldn't help but notice the signs of urban decay that surrounded us, bars on windows, graffiti-laden underpasses, and an overall sense of desolation that hung heavy in the air. Despite our growing unease, we pressed on, determined to see this endeavor through to its conclusion. Arriving at the address provided by Dan, we were greeted by a scene straight out of a noir thriller. The entrance to the property was sandwiched between 2 dilapidated houses, leading to what could generously be described as a driveway, though it bore a closer resemblance to a neglected alleyway. The surrounding buildings loomed ominously, their cramped quarters invoking a sense of claustrophobia that threatened to engulf us. Summoning our courage, we approached the front door and tentatively rang the bell, the sound echoing eerily in the stillness of the afternoon. To our surprise, a window suddenly slid open, and a voice, presumably Dan's, beckoned us inside, informing us that the door was unlocked. My mother's apprehension was palpable as we hesitated on the threshold, her whispered concerns mingling with the fluttering of my own heart. But fueled by youthful exuberance and a touch of naivete, I brushed aside her reservations, eager to lay eyes on the prize that awaited us within. Stepping over the threshold, we were met with a dimly lit interior that seemed to swallow the feeble rays of sunlight that dared to penetrate its depths. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and insignificant in the cavernous space. To my relief, a response came, a deep voice, confirming that Dan was indeed present and accounted for. As we made our way further into the shadowy confines of the house, my mother's grip tightened on my shoulder, her silent plea for caution not lost on me. But emboldened by a sense of purpose and the tantalizing prospect of car ownership, I pressed on, determined to see this transaction through to its conclusion. Then, from beyond a closed door at the end of the kitchen, Dan's voice beckoned us forth, suggesting that we conduct the transaction in that dimly lit chamber. It was a proposition that sent a shiver down my spine, igniting a primal instinct within me that screamed danger. Exchanging a wordless glance with my mother, we silently agreed that it was time to beat a hasty retreat. With mounting trepidation, we made our excuses and hastily exited the premises, the weight of what could have been hanging heavy in the air. As we fled from that sinister enclave, a sense of relief washed over us, tempered only by the realization of how close we had come to potential danger. It was a sobering reminder that, in a world fraught with uncertainty, caution and intuition were our most valuable assets. In the days that followed, the memory of that harrowing encounter lingered like a specter, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. And though the allure of car ownership still beckoned, I vowed to tread more cautiously, guided by the wisdom gleaned from that brush with peril. For in the end, it wasn't the promise of a shiny new set of wheels that defined that fateful day, but rather the lessons learned and the narrow escape from a fate that could have been far darker and more sinister. My journey into the realms of adulthood began with the daunting task of finding a place to call home after graduating college. With pockets not exactly brimming with cash, my friend and I scoured the depths of Craigslist in search of that elusive gem, a cheap yet livable abode. One fateful day, our eyes landed upon a listing that seemed to offer the perfect solution, a house with rent so low it bordered on unbelievable. Eager to seize the opportunity, we wasted no time in reaching out to the owner, a certain Mr. Lee, expressing our interest and requesting a visit. To our surprise and delight, Mr. Lee responded promptly, extending an invitation for a viewing the following day. While my friend was unfortunately tied up with work commitments, we couldn't afford to let this chance slip through our fingers. Thus, it was decided that I would venture forth alone, armed with nothing but a camera to capture the essence of the place for my absent companion. As I embarked on the journey to the house the next day, a sense of trepidation gnawed at the edges of my mind. Nestled at the end of a rugged road, far removed from civilization, the house loomed ominously amidst overgrown foliage and unkempt surroundings. Despite my misgivings, I pressed on, determined to see the venture through to its conclusion. Upon arrival, my worst fears were confirmed as the dilapidated facade of the house greeted me with open arms. It was a far cry from the idyllic image painted by the listing. With a heavy heart, I contemplated making a hasty retreat, but before I could execute my escape plan, a voice shattered the silence, beckoning me forth. Reluctantly, I approached the source of the voice, only to come face to face with Mr. Lee himself. Sensing that my window of opportunity to flee had closed, I resigned myself to the inevitable and allowed him to lead me inside. The interior of the house mirrored its exterior, decrepit, desolate, and devoid of any semblance of life. As Mr. Lee guided me through its labyrinthine corridors, my sense of unease grew with each passing moment. It was abundantly clear that this was not the home I had envisioned. As we ascended the stairs to the upper floor, my eyes fell upon a locked door at the end of the hallway, its ominous presence sending a chill down my spine. To my horror, I noticed a trail of footprints in the layer of dust that coated the floor, all leading inexorably towards the forbidden threshold. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but before I could act, Mr. Lee seized my arm with a vice-like grip, his demeanor taking on a sinister edge. With a sinking heart, I realized that I had walked straight into a trap. Summoning every ounce of courage I possessed, I tore myself free from Mr. Lee's grasp and fled down the stairs, the echoes of his menacing voice reverberating in my ears. Ignoring his frantic pleas, I raced to my car and sped away into the safety of the night. It was only later, after recounting my harrowing ordeal to the authorities, that the true extent of the danger I had narrowly escaped came to light. The house, it transpired, had been abandoned for 8 long years, its hollow halls harboring secrets far more sinister than I could have imagined. Evidence of recent habitation was discovered within the confines of the locked room, suggesting that I had stumbled upon the lair of unknown intruders with nefarious intentions. What drove them to set their sights on me, a mere college graduate with little to offer but youthful naivety, remains a mystery to this day. As I ponder the events that unfolded on that fateful day, I am haunted by one lingering question: what dark forces lurked within the shadows of that forsaken house, and what horrors did they have in store for me? For years, Classified Connections had been my go-to virtual marketplace, a digital bazaar where the thrill of finding a bargain mingled with the caution of dealing with strangers. It was a realm of opportunity and risk, where the allure of cheap deals danced with the specter of uncertainty. And while I had my fair share of uneventful transactions, it was one particular encounter that left an indelible mark on my psyche, a tale of intrigue and deception that unfolded like a chilling symphony of shadows. Before delving into the depths of that harrowing experience, let me rewind the tape to a time when my interactions on Classified Connections were relatively mundane, if not entirely unremarkable. Sure, there were the occasional oddities: a used laptop harboring unsettling secrets, a vintage lamp with a mysterious past, but nothing that set my pulse racing or sent shivers down my spine. But then, as fate would have it, life took a dramatic turn, propelling me into the tumultuous realm of adulthood with all its trials and tribulations. Fresh out of college, I found myself sharing a house with two friends, Alex and Ryan, united by a shared sense of camaraderie and a penchant for late-night adventures. But as the sands of time shifted and the winds of change swept through our lives, cracks began to appear in the facade of our friendship. The catalyst for our eventual parting of ways was a job offer that beckoned from a distant state, a golden opportunity that I simply couldn't pass up. And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of bittersweet anticipation, I bid farewell to my erstwhile roommates, embarking on a journey into the great unknown. But before I could set sail for greener pastures, there was the small matter of divesting myself of the myriad possessions that had accumulated over the years, a task that seemed daunting in its enormity. And so, armed with nothing but a laptop and a cup of lukewarm coffee, I turned to Classified Connections once more, determined to turn my excess baggage into cold, hard cash. From bed frames to bookshelves, kitchen tables to couches, I listed it all, casting my virtual net far and wide in the hopes of reeling in a buyer, or buyers, as the case may be. And lo and behold, the inquiries began to trickle in, each one a potential lifeline in the sea of uncertainty that lay before me. But it was one message in particular that caught my eye, a terse missive from a certain Tyler, expressing interest in the kitchen set I had listed. Intrigued by his promptness and professionalism, I responded in kind, offering additional photos and information to seal the deal. In the days that followed, Tyler and I engaged in a tentative dance of negotiation, each probing the other for signs of trustworthiness and reliability. We exchanged pleasantries, discussed logistics, and even ventured into the treacherous waters of phone calls, a rare feat in the world of online transactions where anonymity often reigns supreme. And then, like clockwork, the day of reckoning arrived. Armed with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, I prepared my humble abode for the arrival of my prospective buyers, tidying up the clutter and ensuring that everything was in its rightful place. Little did I know that this seemingly innocuous act of hospitality would be the prelude to a nightmare that would haunt me for years to come. As the appointed hour drew near, I found myself alone in the house, the silence broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock and the dull hum of distant traffic. And then, like a harbinger of doom, there came a knock at the door, a sound that sent a shiver down my spine and set my heart racing with a mixture of anticipation and dread. Summoning every ounce of courage I possessed, I crossed the threshold and swung open the door, only to be confronted by a sight that chilled me to the bone. Standing before me were not one, but two men, the enigmatic Tyler and his imposing brother, whose presence seemed to fill the room with an aura of menace and foreboding. Despite my misgivings, I welcomed them inside, leading them to the kitchen where the object of their desire awaited inspection. But as they scrutinized the table with an intensity that bordered on obsession, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, that beneath their veneer of civility lay a darkness that threatened to consume us all. And then, in a heartbeat, the charade came crashing down, revealing the true nature of their intentions. With a strength that defied belief, Tyler's brother seized me by the arm, pinning me against the wall with a force that left me gasping for breath and struggling to comprehend the nightmare that was unfolding before my eyes. Helpless and vulnerable, I watched in horror as they ransacked the house, their hands moving with a speed and precision that spoke of years of practice and expertise. They rifled through drawers and closets, leading chaos and destruction in their wake as they sought out their prize, a prize that I had unwittingly placed within their grasp. And then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they were gone, leaving me bruised, battered, and shaken to the core. In the aftermath of their departure, I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life, grappling with the trauma of what had transpired and the harsh reality of my newfound vulnerability. But amidst the darkness, there were glimmers of hope, lessons learned, friendships forged, and a newfound appreciation for the fragility of trust and the importance of remaining vigilant in a world fraught with danger. And though the scars of that fateful encounter may never fully fade, they serve as a constant reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the indomitable will to survive, no matter how dire the circumstances may seem. In the end, it was not the material possessions that I lost that day that mattered, but the invaluable lessons that I gained, the knowledge that strength can be found in vulnerability, and that even in our darkest moments, there is always a flicker of light to guide us on our journey through the shadows.